Hello. Hello. Hi. Hey. Ooh. Trying to see if I'm doing this right, you know? I'm kind of old. Technology surprises me. It mocks me. Look, here's the deal. Claire Murphy, who is a pretty good kid, wants to do a special thing for the Life Night. And why the Catholic faith is important. Why you should know what the faith says so you can be able to defend yourself. It's kind of an apologetic. And the truth is, I think it's a great idea. And so I wanted to offer a little bit of a word of encouragement. You know, I think you're doing one of two things. You're either A, reinforcing people's stereotypes and misconceptions about the Catholic faith, or two, B, standing in direct opposition to those misconceptions and stereotypes. In other words, the way that you live your life, the way that you live out your Catholic faith, it does impact the way that people understand who Jesus is, what he thinks, how he acts, you know. And the thing for us is really to step into this moment with heroic virtue, like to not be afraid, to truly live out the Catholic faith, even though it's going to be hard, even though there'll be times that we'll be misunderstood, but we need this. We need to live this faith out with complete and total abandon to Christ. Why? Because people are confused about who Jesus is and what he's done. Here's a few things that I think everybody has in common, no matter who or where they come from, who they are, how old they are, how much financial, kind of backing they have. We all have this in common. One is we all have questions. Like, who is God? Is he there? Does he care? And if he is there and he does care, can I approach him freely? Or do I have to go through some sort of specification to get his attention? So we all have questions. Real big questions. Some are more important than others. You know, what's the meaning of life? What happens after I die? I think no matter where you are in terms of looking at history, you can see people trying to come to grips with their mortality, who they are, and these big questions. The second thing is call. Really, God has been calling all of us, you and I, throughout all salvation history, but also in the things that we see outside, the beauty of God's creation, like that God is there and that he's big and that he's beyond what we can even comprehend or articulate. This God wants to know us. We know that by looking at some of the stories throughout the sacred scriptures. He's interested in us, even though we've made mistakes and even though we've fallen down. Confrontation. The truth is that there comes a point in all of our lives where we have to ask that big question, who is Jesus to us? Like, you can't just sit and say, yeah, Jesus is a nice guy because he claims to be more than just a nice guy. You can't just say, he was one of the great spiritual teachers because there were a lot of great spiritual teachers out there. What makes Jesus different is that he is the invisible God made visible, all deity and bodily form, Emmanuel, God with us. And Jesus comes, dies, is resurrected, and now offers us a new way to live, which brings us to the last little point, celebration. You and I have the chance to truly live this life heroically. So what you're going to do as you gather together is you're going to remind each other that it's okay to have questions and that God is calling us all. And it's important for us to get passionate for the faith, to live this faith out with entire and total abandonment to Christ. Why? So that those around can see a different picture of what it means to truly live. God bless.